What up, everybody? It's Scotty here with Flat Track Flashback, and I know it looks like I'm going to talk about tennis. It is Wimbledon week, but no, we're going to look back at Lima today, a doubleheader weekend that took place at the Allen County Fairgrounds in Lima, Ohio, and it was awesome. It always is. Lima puts on such a great show. It's that just like old school fairgrounds, cushion dirt track racing. You get to see the roost flying. You got guys sliding through the corners. You got so many different racing lines. You got dudes just powering through the rough stuff. You get people feet up, sideways. It's everything you could want as a flat track fan. And I'm so thankful that Jared Mees Promotions and that whole team at the Allen County Fairgrounds continues to put on flat track racing. And yeah, we get the doubleheader. We get the debut of the Triple Challenge. We're going to chat about that. We're going to talk about the last Saturday in June, that whole, the normal Lima that we get, that normal national that we get. And yeah, there's a lot to dive into. So we're going to lead things off with the singles class, and then we'll dive into the twins class a little bit. The amateur day that they had got rained out. They got through heat races and then just unreal scenes from the pit area. The flooding that was in the pits and like just seeing everybody's social media posts, like, wow, that came in fast and just like completely flooded the pit area there. And a lot of standing water on the track. But yeah, by the end of the day on Thursday, seeing stories from Jared Mees, like it's amazing what that track can take as far as rain goes. They've been dealt a hand with Mother Nature the past couple of years, and were able to get a great show in last year and got 2 full days of racing even this year. They had a little bit of an issue with the water truck even on Friday, and that second singles main event got a little dusty, but still provided some great racing action. I will say, a little disappointed in the turnout on Friday, a little disappointed in the crowd there. It looked like it got a lot better on Saturday. Maybe Mother Nature kept people away, but if we're going to have these doubleheader type weekends, we definitely need people to support. I know I sound a little hypocritical since I wasn't there, but your boy's working 17 different jobs. I would love to get to Lima. In fact, maybe I'll go ahead and put the PTO in for next year. Last Saturday in June, I cannot work. I will be up in Lima, Ohio. You guys can hold me to that. I'm going to make it happen. And I might regret saying that on here because now there's proof. Starting with the singles class, like we said, and there's one dude to focus on, and that is the bomber. Tom Drain got his first victory, then he backed it up. Tom wins the Triple Challenge overall on Friday, and then aside from an early race lead on Saturday from Chase Sadoff, Tom gets underneath him early in that main event on Saturday, going into turn 3, and then threw up the deuces and left him. Saturday, Tom won by north of 5 seconds. And other than Trevor Bruner challenging him on Friday during those Triple Challenge races, I mean, Tom was unreal. He's got Lima on lockdown. Ever since appearing and making his debut there in 2022, Tom's been no worse than second out at that track. Even across the Triple Challenge races there on Friday, I mean, Tom was fighting for the win every time out there, with the exception of Bruner getting the better of him in that second main event, like we said. Tom led the entire time. Of the 66 laps that were contested across those 3 races on Friday, plus Saturday's main event, Tom led 46 of those. We're not even factoring in all the laps that he led in his heat race and the Big Mike Turner Challenge there on Saturday. Tom Drain was just unreal in Lima. He picks up the weekend sweep, and that bumps him to 13 career AFT Singles victories, which ties him in that class with his current teammate, Dallas Daniels. Dallas picked up 13 wins in that class during his time, and now Drain is right there. He's 10 behind Cody Kopp for the all-time leader in that class. I don't think Tom's going to hit that number this year, but Tom gets back-to-back wins, just like Cody Kopp did earlier in the year, just like Cage Chapman did earlier in the year. And Tom's won 3 races in a row in this class before. Heck, he did it to close out the 2024 season. And this is a big stretch. We talked about how opportunistic this could be for Tom to advance his championship hopes. These 2 tracks where he runs well at, even though we picked Chase Sadoff to win. Well, Tom made me regret that. And got the sweep there in Lima, and he's going into DuQuoin, a track that he was really, really good at last year, except for that little mishap there. We kind of got shoved wide. It wasn't even a mishap. He just got kind of moved out of the way a little bit there on the last lap of DuQuoin last year. He would have been definitely factoring into that drag race to the line. DuQuoin is a track that Chase Sadoff did get the victory at last year, and Chase is going to need to reel him back in because, man, Tom was just cooking, and this has got to be massive for him. He's been really consistent all year. We knew that first win was coming. Came into Lima with a 5-point lead, but he's saying peace out to that Ohio track with a 16-point lead, and that's a pretty solid number for him to have ahead. I don't foresee him finishing off the podium at DuQuoin for sure, but hey, anything can happen. Tom was just so impressive to watch, like we said. He was so fast all weekend, was just absolutely sending it, and was turning faster laps than the Twins guys at times. He was ripping around that track. We thought, like we said, we thought Chase Sadoff might be able to get the better of him. And then Trevor Bruner was able to put on a really good show. We'll talk plenty about Trevor and all the ups and downs that he had on the weekend. But man, like we said, we had to lead off with Tom. And the only, that Friday where he was bested by Bruner. And then in that third main event, there was a moment where he kind of got pushed a little wide, dropped as far back as fifth, but then just clawed his way back to the front in that third Triple Challenge main event. He gets to the lead by lap 6 and would never really be challenged after that. Just bringing home a great weekend for Tom and his team, and grabbing hold of that championship as we head into DuQuoin, into the mile this weekend. Just a great little stretch of racing for them. And what else can you say? Tom's just got Lima figured out, and if he decides to stay in the class, it might be a little while before somebody's going to really truly give him a push on the 450s, at least at that track. We mentioned Chase Adolph, that we thought he was going to be the one to beat in the Triple Challenge race at Lima, and Chase was he's just a little off all weekend. Just couldn't quite keep up with Bruner and Tom there on Friday. I got a really good start on Saturday, had a solid run going, held on for P2 on Saturday. Picked up 2 podiums on the weekend, kind of, did what he needed to do to stay, connected to Tom in the championship. It's just funny. Chase said he's a sore loser. He wants more. He wants more victories. And, we're coming into a track into DuQuoin where Chase won last year. And he's got to be looking forward to that. He was running second in that third Triple Challenge race. And then his buddy Terrence Santero got the better of him. But he picks up a third overall there on Friday in the Triple Challenge and does hold off Bruner. Bruner was coming on strong at the end of Saturday. But Chase is able to hold him off there and gets that P2 finish on Saturday. So another couple podiums for Sadoff after having that 5th place finish out in Chico. A little unorthodox. It's weird to even say that, because we talk about, a bad race for these guys is them being off the podium, which that's just the level that these guys are at. These top guys, when they're off the podium, we consider it a bad race, which maybe that's being too critical, but it's just, that's how good they've been lately. And Trevor Bruner, man, there is no shortage of drama with Blackjack this year, I guess. It's this weekend especially, man. The guy, he just had quite the up and down time. Friday during qualifying, bike locks up. He has to lay it down. So we got a practice crash there. Rebounds from that, ends up challenging Tom Drain, giving him all he can handle in these first 2 Triple Challenge races. They had probably the race of the weekend there, that second Triple Challenge main event that saw Bruner get the better of Tom. And Bruner riding that wave of confidence after getting the better of Tom back in Harpster, Ohio at the Mission CTR Series. But Lima, just a different animal. And we mentioned how Bruner's been decent at Lima, but he'd never been on the podium. He had a couple top 5 runs in his previous stint in the singles class, but was yet to step on the box up until this weekend. And it looked like he was poised to do so. He put together, a great first couple main events there in the Triple Challenge, was leading the overall coming into the final race, led the first 5 laps. Tom ends up getting around him, starts to pull away, and then a mechanical causes Bruner to DNF that third Triple Challenge race, which dropped him from what would have been a 2nd place finish in the overall back to 6th. And that's just, you just gutted for him, because he put together such a great performance up to that point. Well, Trevor's drama was not done. Come Saturday, and he's rolling out for the Big Mike Turner Challenge race. His team owner help put up the money for, and the chain snaps off as he's pulling out for his sighting lap. So more drama for Trevor. And then Saturday's main event, he never really got to factor up toward the lead. Not the best start, as I scratch my nostril. Not the best start on the weekend that time, and Trevor was kind of buried back a little bit. Had a good little battle with Walker Porter, and then we talked about how he was definitely charging. He was running down Sadoff toward the end of that race, and just ran out of time and had to settle for 3rd. But his podium interview, great to see. Just psyched to be back on the bike, and got to feel like that first win of the season is coming from him. Those Turner bikes run really, really well on the miles. And it'll be interesting to see how Trevor's able to get around DuQuoin there. He rode pretty well on the Twin there last year. Had a little bit of drama in that race. But Blackjack, hey, he's fun to watch. He's super Cindy, and just was really giving it all he could to try to hang with Drain on the weekend, but ultimately having to settle with that 6th overall and then the podium on the 2nd night. Not a bad weekend, but unfortunately for Trevor, it drops him a pretty good ways back in the points, and he's going to need a little bit of help to get back into this title fight. But hey, then again, go out there and he starts picking up wins, maybe he could find himself right back in the hunt. We got a lot of racing coming up over the next couple of months. The entire series is going to come to a close from July 4th through September 14th. So a lot of racing still to be done, and was fun to see Bruner up there in the fight. Just need those bikes to hold together, and and then he could be right back up in this title fight. Another rider who had a little bit of a feast or famine weekend was Taryn Santero. And Taryn, on Friday, put together a great ride. Now, last year at Lima, a crash was the only time he finished outside the top 10 during the back stretch of the season. And here we go. Taryn's up there fighting for podiums on Friday. His triple challenge results were 4.42. That late race pass around Chase Sadoff in that third triple challenge main event was enough for Taryn to steal second overall on Friday. And Taryn on Saturday was right back up in the hunt, right back up in the mix, fighting for the lead in his heat race until he laid it down. And that put him at the back of the staggered restart. He fights his way back up to fifth, gets the transfer to the main event. But unfortunately, in Saturday's main event, while racing inside the top 10, Santero has a mechanical and has to DNF on Saturday. So very unfortunate. Like you said, feast or famine. Had a great run going there Friday night. A lot of confidence coming into Saturday, and just not his day on Saturday. But there's two rookies under that Roof Systems camp that had pretty solid weekends. Cage Tabin, he's still yet to finish outside the top 5 in the singles class. He was riding that winning streak coming in, and during one of the red flags, he said he was just trying to survive. And not only did he survive, he came out very impressive. In the triple challenge events on Friday, sort of eased into it. 9th in that first race, but then 2 top 5 finishes, which gave him 5th place overall for the triple challenge. And then on Saturday, charging through the pack, was as low as 8th at one point, got all the way up to 4th, was in a great battle with Walker Porter and Aiden Roos-Evans there on the back part of that main event. Cage able to really get that bike hooked up on the bottom at times, but just got more and more comfortable as the weekend went on. And Cage has worked his way back up into the top 5 in points. And again, under that Jerry Stinchfield, that Roof Systems banner, he's been so fun to watch. He is a ripper, an absolute show on that machine. And he's got to be feeling good coming out of Lima, a track that he hadn't raced that much. I think he got maybe an amateur start there in the past, but definitely not as familiar as some of the tracks that he's used to riding on in California. But coming to new territory and to come out with the top 5 both nights, got to be feeling good with how strong Sadoff, Bruner, and especially Tom Drain were. I mean, shoot, a 4th place has got to almost feel like a win for Cage, being sort of the best of the rest there in Lima on Saturday, and just giving us a show in that battle for 4th. His teammate under that banner, Ryder Reese, making his debut on the weekend. And Ryder and Cage have very interesting riding styles. Ryder seems a lot more centered on the bike, doesn't seem to be moving around as much, is very settled, and Cage is like charging on it. But hey, Jerry's got a couple gassers under that tent, like we said. And Ryder, he just missed the cut on Friday for the triple challenge races, but on Saturday, a great qualifying effort. He makes the main event out of his heat race and picks up a top 10 finish. Great to see Ryder now joining the class, and we'll see what he looks like as he continues to move through the ranks. It would have been interesting to see if he could have put it in the show were Friday not a triple challenge format, but just missing out there. Now, another rider who was debuting, not under Jerry's tent, back to Turner Racing. Let's talk about Walker Porter, and I was blown away by how strong Walker was on the weekend. He was qualifying toward the top and put together some great rides. His early race speed was so impressive. And yeah, he seemed to drop back a little bit toward the end of a couple of those races on Friday, but still in the triple challenge, he's in the top 10 every time. Walker gets a 7th, and then on Saturday comes home with a 5th place finish, and he was up there briefly sticking a wheel under Tom Drain toward the front of the pack there on Saturday, but then would fall back into a battle with Bruner, and then a little bit further back into that battle with Roos-Evans and Tabin. Ultimately, Walker had to get back around Roos-Evans late in that race to steal back 5th. But how about a top 5 for Walker Porter? And I thought maybe a clay car track would be a better place for him to debut instead of Lima. But man, what an impressive first time at the racetrack for Walker Porter, for at least in his first AFT singles race. It'll be fun to continue to watch him, and he might be up there and hurt some feelings throughout the rest of this season. Just very impressed with where he landed on his debut. Another rookie that had a great performance on the weekend was Skylar Sintel. He qualified for the Triple Challenge event, I believe, coming home with a 12th overall there, but then a top 10 finish the following day, Saturday, getting into the main event through his heat race and a strong run all weekend. Skylar put together some really good rides at Harpster coming into Lima and has really proven to be a solid cushion track rider. So good to see Skylar up there in the mix. Yeah, a lot of 3-digit numbers making shows. Billy Van Erd, we touched on coming into Lima in our pre-show. He was riding some bikes that he borrowed from Cody Kopp, and not the best first race for Billy. He didn't make the Triple Challenge event. Unfortunately, after a 15th and a 12th, he would have a very bad crash on the back straightaway, and that knocked him out for the weekend. unable to come back on Saturday night to compete. Hopefully everything's okay with Billy and we can see him line up in the future. Trevor Martin, also not the best weekend for him. He looked so fast, but he just missed out on Triple Challenge qualifying on Friday. And then Saturday, put together a top 10 qualifying effort, but stalled the bike before the heat race, and then was unable to get enough spots forward in the last chance qualifier to get into the main event. I believe he finished 6th in that LCQ, which is a real bummer because we thought Trevor was going to be out there fighting in the top 10. I know he wanted more out of the weekend, but we're not done seeing Trevor Martin be a factor. He's gonna make some waves here in this singles class, and we just have to keep our eyes out for that number 180. Definitely sure to make a main event at some point if he chooses to continue to compete at tracks this season. I wouldn't be surprised to see Trevor in a main event later on. And I know next year when LIMA rolls around, he'll be looking for a lot of redemption. The First Impressions racing team kind of saw their riders go opposite directions on the weekend. When you look at Evan Renshaw, he qualified 12th on Friday, gets into the Triple Challenge, is able to come home with a 4th overall, was working his way up from that 12th starting spot to 5th in that first main event, second main event, a 6th place finish, and then a 4th, which was enough for him to get 4th overall on the weekend. Saturday, Evan qualifies 16th, misses a transfer out of his heat race, barely gets into the main event, last transfer spot in the LCQ. But even though he started 16th, he worked his way all the way up to 7th, a +9 feature plus minus there for Evan on the weekend, moving forward from less than stellar qualifying efforts. Bad news, though, unfortunately for his teammate Chad Coase. Chad qualified 3rd on Friday and 2nd on Saturday. Chad's Friday in the Triple Challenge started not so bad with a 6th place finish in that first race, but then a 15th and a 12th to finish up his Triple Challenge. And then Saturday, after being in the Mike Turner Dash, in the big Mike Turner Dash, from a solid qualifying effort and a good heat race result, Chad suffers a DNF, and Evan actually leads the singles class in main event plus minus. If you factor in those 3 Triple Challenge races as well, Evan's moved up 20 spots, and unfortunately for Chad, with just some really bad luck, some DNFs, crashes, and the like, Chad unfortunately sits at the bottom of that list right now at -33. So just very unfortunate happenings there for the 49. If they could be able to keep those qualifying results and stay up front, Chad could definitely be a factor. We saw how good he was at Springfield last year on these First Impressions bikes. And now we're coming into a mile, and this could be an opportunity for Chad to really get back some momentum on this season and stay up toward the front, maybe hop on the box. DuQuoin last year did not go so well for him. That kind of over-aggressive penalty that he got for the whole Twins fiasco, where, yeah, sure, rules got broken, but a DQ for the night. That was still a little aggressive, a little unnecessary to DQ for the guy for the night. But yeah, we'll see what First Impressions is able to do. Evan, with that solid weekend coming off of the last time that we raced, he had that really violent crash at Silver Dollar, but then put together a really good weekend there in Lima. A couple of strong finishes to stay in the hunt for sort of the top 5 in points. It's probably not where Evan wants to be in the championship standings, but it's kind of where we're at right now. And speaking of points, it's Tom Drain who leads the charge, leads it by 16 over Chase Sadoff. Double that up, 16 more back. You got Trevor Bruner sitting in 3rd, and that's when the battle for 4th starts shaping up. Terrence Santero currently sits 4th in points, but he's only got a few points on his teammate Cage Tabman, and then Aiden Roos-Evans and Evan Renshaw right there in tow in that little points battle there, and they're not terribly far off from Trevor Bruner, so we'll see who can put together a strong charge here on the back half of the season and maybe move up. Definitely expecting to see a couple more winners coming out of this singles class. We've already had 4 winners on the season, and it wouldn't surprise me if we end up with 6. I don't know if 7's going to be the thing, but I fully expect to see Trevor Bruner on top of the box at some point. And man, Santero and Roos-Evans have put together great efforts. Some of these clay car tracks, and when we go to Jack Pine Gypsies, you just never know what you're going to get. Bruner also a great TT rider. I'll go ahead and call it. Bruner's going to win Peoria again. I'm just going to go ahead and call it right now. Trevor Bruner is going to stand on top of the box when we hit Peoria, and maybe again at some point during the season. But yeah, that's going to bring it close to the singles program. So many impressive riders on the weekend. This singles class is so fun to watch. We've got a lot of new riders coming up into this class, and I don't know, maybe in a couple of years we might be seeing a vibe shift if riders like Drain and Sadoff and Bruner end up stepping back up into the Twins class, and all these hot prospect amateurs that are ripping it up at amateur nationals right now move into the singles class. Could be a lot of excitement coming into the sport here in a few years. Speaking of amateur nationals, it's taking place all week in DuQuoin. We'll talk about that on the next video. So the 2-horse race, the head-to-head fight in the Twins class, well, it continued over the weekend. We had another rider try to sneak up and say, "Don't you forget about me," but Ultimately, Briar Bauman versus Dallas Daniels continues to be the storyline in the Mission Super Twins class. A little indigestion from dinner. Hold on. And we're back. Briar and Dallas are funny on the podium. Each one of them tells the other one that they're the man. And it reminds me of, me and my friends whenever we just run into each other. You're the man. No, you're the man. Each of them thinks the other guy is the man. And I feel like it's created this great friendly rivalry between the two of them. And at least it's friendly for now. But we'll see if that stays the course as we get later into the season. But, man, it's so fun to watch these guys race each other. And Dallas seemed to be the favorite coming into the weekend with how strong he was at Lima last year and how good he was looking in Friday's Triple Challenge races. But it almost feels like Briar just kind of lets the day come to him. He doesn't overstress about, practice and qualifying and the heat races. And when it's time to get the main events on, Briar shows up, and that's when the best Briar Bauman performs is in those main events. But nonetheless, Triple Challenge on Friday night, Dallas Daniels is looking good. He scores that first main event victory and leads a charge into the second race where he would end up back in third. Briar Bauman and Brandon Robinson get out front and going at it. Brandon Robinson leads some laps on the weekend. It was really good to see Brandon back up in the fight. We'll focus a little bit more on him in a minute. Ultimately, Bauman's able to get around Robinson and take the victory in that second Triple Challenge race. Daniel's able to get by late and come home second, which set up that showdown again, that third Triple Challenge race. Bauman able to get out front, leading majority of that race. But in the closing stages, you started to see him searching for lines, and then ultimately goes up by the fence, nearly crashes into the air fence, and you find out that burned up the clutch. And Dallas is able to capitalize on that, gets into the lead, and pulls away during the late stages of that Triple Challenge race on Friday night. Briar ultimately fell behind Brandon Robinson to third in that particular race. It allows Dallas to come home with the Triple Challenge victory and get the strobe light effect there in victory lane. That was a funny little interview there where he said thought he was going to pass out. And I don't blame you, man. If you're not ready for the strobing effect, it's going to throw you out of whack, especially after you just busted your tail going 20 laps around one of the most physical tracks on the planet. Come Saturday, you get to see the rivalry renewed, but Briar Bauman would get out front and lead all 25 laps on Saturday. He had this really cool line in 3 and 4, was going in really high and just cutting off the entire track, diming it off, coming about as low as you can, exiting turn 4 down the front straightaway. Really fun line to watch. But in 1 and 2, Dallas looked to be stronger, especially during the closing stages of the race. It still looked like Briar was trying to find what would be the best line around Lima there in 1 and 2. He had something really good cooking there in 3 and 4, but when Dallas got off the line, he was kind of back a little bit, got a decent enough start, but then the Harley swallowed him up, kind of ganging up on him a little bit. And Dallas gets around Brandon Robinson, but he was over 2 seconds behind Briar at that point. Started chipping away and made it dramatic toward the end. He got that gap under a second. It was closing. Looked like lap traffic might become a factor, but Bauman's able to maintain the lead, kind of doing the Jet Lawrence thing and just maintaining the lead and keeping his competitors at a distance. Who knows what would have happened a couple more laps? They came up on a couple lap riders who were fighting for position. Ultimately, though, Briar comes home with another victory at Lima. So every other year, 21, 23, and 25, Briar Bauman has stood on top of the box the last Saturday in June, which, you know what that means? That just means Briar's not going to win next year. Sorry, bud. That's just how patterns are, I guess. But still, really fun seeing these guys go at it. It's just a really special thing to watch these guys do what they do on these motorcycles. And Briar, just the accomplishments that he's been able to rack up at Lima, so cool. He's won 4 times there, and each time it's been on a different bike. So I don't know, in 2 years, whenever 2027 rolls around, it's time for him to keep the pattern going. Is he going to be riding a Suzuki? Is he going to be riding a Honda? Or is he still going to be on the Harley? Briar now also with those 4 wins on the season, kind of holds serve in the championship. We'll look at points in a little bit, but it also brings Briar to 30 career victories, ties him with Henry Wiles, and he sits 1 behind Will Davis for 10th all time. And I guess if somebody's going to have to pass Will, Briar, it's okay. We can let it happen, I guess. It's bound to happen eventually. Hopefully we didn't just jinx him for the rest of the season. But yeah, Briar's put together a great season. And this might, this has got to be up there with that 2020 year as far as like just his best performance in this class. I mean, yeah, that year on the Indian, going head-to-head with Jared Mees, and it was like a weird COVID year too, but Briar able to put together so many first and second place finishes, his championship years. For sure up there with his consistency on the podium. But, man, he just looks like and maybe this is recency bias, but it just looks like this is the best riding we've seen from Briar. Even compared to those years. I guess I'd have to go back and maybe watch some of that tape. But he is they are locked in on that XG right now, and this is going to be quite the title fight coming through the rest of the year. We did get a little glimpse of Breyer and Dallas at DuQuoin. We'll get the real thing coming up Saturday, July 5th, when they hit the mile, the magic mile that Dallas was runner-up at last year. And those Estenson bikes get around those miles so good. But yeah, it'll be fun to see them continue this battle. They've really checked out in this championship. It looks like it's a 2-horse race. But there's a few players who could play spoiler for sure. And one of those who seems to have found his footing there at Lima was Brandon Robinson. And Robinson able to lead laps there on Friday, be up in the mix, even won the Mission Challenge on Saturday, where apparently he called his shot. You know, he had great sprint speed, had great early race pace, just seemed to drop off as the main events went on. But yeah, he called a shot apparently to Kolby Carlile Friday night and said that come Saturday, he's winning the Mission Challenge. He's getting that $5,000. And sure enough, he did just that. Brandon Robinson able to come home with 2 podiums on the weekend. Good to see him back up in the fight, although he did nearly relinquish one of those podiums on Saturday. But Lima's a track that's been really good to Brandon through the years, and it was awesome to see Brandon up there spicing it up with Breyer and with Dallas on the weekend. These guys, some of the racing they put on was just absolutely thrilling. The heat race battle between Brandon Robinson and Dallas Daniels on Saturday was something else. And man, Lima, just the racing that it provides with just multiple lines, guys sliding, cutting underneath. I mean, like we said at the top, it's flat track at its absolute best. And just the scenes that you get from there are just something else. And yeah, I can't wait to one day see it in person. Apparently next year, since I'm committed to it. We talked about Brandon nearly losing the podium there on Saturday. That brings me to the funky font boys, I'm going to call them, the guys with the odd-looking number plate fonts. First of which, man, Declan Bender, what a performance he put together this weekend in Lima. Didn't start off great. That first Triple Challenge main event was the 17th, but then gets a top 10 in that second race. And in the third Triple Challenge race on Friday, Declan Bender comes home 4th. Epic improvements for him throughout the weekend. I did not think that Lima was going to be the best track for Declan, but man, he was charging on the weekend. Really got more comfortable with that bike, it looked like, and was just on a roll and just everything coming to him, man. Then comes Saturday, he nearly steals that podium from Brandon Robinson late, was just putting together great rides. Equals his career best with that 4th on Saturday. He was only 0.2 of a second off of B-Rob coming to the line, and watch out for Declan come DuQuoin. That bike finished on the podium with Brandon Price last year, and Declan was so good at DuQuoin on his Indian last year. And this will be fun to see Declan back up in the mix, man. He's a rider who didn't have the greatest results in the singles class, but still got that Rookie of the Year. He took a chance on himself, stepped up to the twins class a year later, and he's really found a home there on the twin. He rides these twins really well, just looks comfortable, doesn't look out of shape. Definitely seems to have the bike underneath him and just looked really smooth on a track, at least from the times we got to see him on the broadcast. Looked really smooth on a track that is anything but. Lima's a rough, gnarly place at times, but Declan was just looking so good on that Yamaha for OTB Racing, and definitely has a lot of positives to build on as we head into the rest of the season. Definitely expecting more top 5s from Declan this year, and it would not surprise me one bit if he's up there on the podium a couple of times. Also, Dan Bromley got that Suzuki and 4th overall in the Triple Challenge on Friday night. He was up there inside the top 5 every single Triple Challenge main event. 2 4ths and a 5th that night. His career best in the Super Twins class, and just continues to impress on that Suzuki. Now, Saturday didn't quite go his way. He started 5th, but ended up at the back of a pretty good battle for 5th in that main event. He comes home 8th on Saturday, but Bromley putting together some solid rides there on the Suzuki. It'll be interesting to see what that thing's able to do on the miles. Very curious to see how that pans out. Then we've got Max Whale and James Ott, who picked up another top 5 on the weekend. Max Whale was 5th overall in the Triple Challenge events there on Friday night, and was having a really good run on Saturday, made the Mission Challenge after a 2nd place in his heat race. Saturday didn't quite go the way he wanted, coming home in 9th on Saturday. Didn't get a great start in that main event and just never got to play a factor there. But Max with some really solid results in the Triple Challenge there on Friday. And then James Ott, another top 5 at Lima, a track that's been good to him in the past. The Triple Challenge wasn't the greatest thing for James Ott on Friday, but a solid run nonetheless. Then Saturday, he gets the better of a really fun battle with himself, Trent Lowe, Jared Vanderkoy, and Dan Bromley. Those guys only separated by less than 2 seconds in that little mixture. Big fight to the finish line with those guys. In fact, James was able to best Trent Lowe by 42 1,000ths of a second for 5th. Trent was on a charge, and Trent has to settle for 6th. And the number 6 is showing up a lot for Trent this weekend. He went 6, 6, 8 in the Triple Challenge, finished 6th on Saturday, and sits 6th in points. Now, while Trent Lowe is seeing 6th come up a lot, unfortunately for Jared Vanderkoy, he's seeing number 7 at Lima a lot. And in the Triple Challenge events on Friday, Vanderkoy had a 7th and a 7th on the first 2 races, but then a mechanical going down the back straightaway, huge cloud of smoke. Very fortunate nobody got into the back of Jared. Nobody went down. Very scary spot for that bike to let go. That DNF ends up putting Vanderkooi in 13th in the overall for the Triple Challenge there on Friday. Not a good weekend for Jared. Comes back Saturday, ends up 7th again. And when you look at his previous LIMA results, ever since being on the podium in 2021, Vanderkooi has been 7th, 8th, 7th, and then this weekend 13th and 7th again. Every other race he gets 7th at LIMA. Not the spot he wants to be in. He's still sitting top 5 in points. But yeah, home state just hasn't been kind to Vanderkooi there at LIMA. And another rider who really struggled on the weekend was Davis Fisher. And Fisher apparently had a sensor on the bike that was making it feel like it was making it think that the bike was overheating. And just a lot of struggles on the weekend for Fisher. He was able to salvage a top 10 in the Triple Challenge on Friday, and then a decent night on Saturday. I guess it's decent, another top 10. He's actually 7th overall on Friday, 10th on Saturday, as I glance back down at my notes. Had a moment in that LCQ where it looked like he was struggling a lot, and then the bike sort of came to him late in that LCQ, but he and Cam Smith sort of had a very close encounter coming to the checkered flag there. It looked like they might have touched coming to the finish line of the LCQ. Davis just struggling all weekend with that bike, and with that if that performance from those two, Brandon Robinson now pulls ahead of them in that battle for third in the championship. As we look at the points for the twins class, Briar Bauman, like we said, he holds serve. He and Dallas split victories. They go 1-2 on the weekend. Briar still leads by 10 points. Brandon Robinson steps into third and gets the better of that battle with Davis Fisher now 4th and Vanderkooi in 5th. Trent Lowe sits 6th in points, but only 2 points separating Trent Lowe, James Ott, Maxwell, and Dan Bromley. All of them fighting for that 6th spot in points right now, and they're actually not far behind Vanderkooi. Trent's only 11 back of Vanderkooi for 5th in the standings. So could these guys start elevating that up into a fight for 5th in the points? And not that there's a lot of contingency money there unless you're on a Yamaha for those championship positions, but still a fun battle nonetheless. And seeing guys who, the likes of Max and Trent and James, who are newer to the class, and Bromley testing out that new Suzuki. It's fun to see these bikes finding success in that class, and going to be fun storylines to follow throughout the rest of the year. Additionally, on the weekend, you got the American V Twins back in action. Danny Kelsch got the win on an XR 750, which seemed a little unfair against some of the sportsters that were out there, but he still had to get the better of George Roeder, and Johnny Bova. And Roeder led a few laps on that bike he was riding, but ultimately Kelsch comes out the victor in that class. And then on Saturday, we got a proper vintage class with those hand shift bikes, that George Roeder hand shift invitational classic, whatever they were calling it. And I thought Jeffrey Carver was brought in as the ringer for that class, and thought he was going to be the victor. But ultimately, it'd be the Bindle brothers who went 1-2. Carver was right there in the fight with them, but a mechanical on the last lap knocked him out of that contention for the win. Seth Bindle gets the victory and left the checkered flag on the back straightaway. He had enough of it. But like we said, a proper vintage class, seeing those bikes that are, some of them almost 100 years old around the track. It's still hard for me to wrap my head around the fact that a Rotax classifies as vintage, and I guess an XR classifies as vintage too. That's just hard for me to get my head around. I mean, am I vintage? I mean, I'm going to be 36 this year, so maybe I guess I do qualify as vintage. But vintage is in, right? Maybe. So that's going to do it for us this week, guys. Thank you so much for coming back to watch. I guess our LIMA preview ruffled a little feathers. Didn't do great viewers that time. But thank you guys so much for giving us another chance. Thank you for coming back to the channel and supporting what we're doing here. It really does mean the world, because you could spend your time doing just about anything else, but you chose to spend some time with us today and listen to us talk about Flat Track. Thank you so much for being fans of the sport, for you riders, crew members, and sponsors that support this. You guys are heroes. And thank you for being involved in this amazing form of racing. We got a lot happening. Like we said, Amateur Nationals is taking place right now in DuQuoin. Seen a couple of scary crashes from there. We'll touch on that next week, as well as talk about the Magic Mile and see how the points shake out and how that night goes there in DuQuoin, the first mile on the season, before we take a week off and then get back at the makeup date for Lucas Oil. We've also got Corey Texter Promotions, Mission Foods, that penultimate weekend for them in Peoria, as he's got another doubleheader going on. Sounds like a lot of pros are going to try to pull the double and run Lucas Oil and make the 5-hour trip to Peoria for that night show on Saturday, get some extra racing in on the weekend. A lot of storylines to develop, and just make sure you guys are supporting everybody that's doing content for this sport. Eternally grateful for anybody who's covering this and helping showcase how incredible this great sport is. So if you guys want to get a hold of us, obviously we appreciate liking, comments, the subscribes and everything. I haven't really been great about getting back to everybody. But thank you guys so much for the engagement on the channel. If you want to talk to us outside of this, you can always follow us on Instagram at Flat Track Flashback on that, or send us an email, flattrackflashback@gmail.com. I think it works. If you've had issues getting a hold of me, please let me know. I'm able to email myself notes on there, but it's great seeing an inbox full of me talking to myself. It's pretty much how my life goes right now, is it's me talking to myself in this video. Yeah. Anywho, yeah, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you guys so much for checking it out, and we'll touch base with you next week talking about all the action down in Southern Illinois at the Magic Mile, everybody. Love you.